The search is on for the elusive plains wanderer. If there's anyone who can track it down, it's bird expert and biologist David Parker.
So plains wanderers are really cryptic. They use their camouflage really well to hide during the day, and even when walking through a paddock, they're not a species that's reluctant or that would flush like a quail. So what they will often do is just move out of your way, and often unknown to you with their movement. At night, we're basically seeing the birds when they're resting or when they're at their least active. And by being that and being in a time where there's no predators flying about above them, they're readily happily to sit still and be seen.
Tonight, David Parker is searching the paddocks of the McCulloch family's sheep and cattle station, Bullawa, on the Hay Plains in the Western Riverina. With some paddocks more than 1,000 hectares in size, finding a ground-dwelling brown bird about 15 centimetres tall takes skill and time. Due to favourable seasonal conditions for breeding, David is confident of finding a pair of plains wanderers.
A few different birds jumping around out there that have been catching my eye, Dave, but not the plains wanderer, you don't think?
No, so far we've seen stubble quail and pipits. So there's no eye shine. You're not looking for eye shine like you would with say an owl or something like that. So you're looking for a bit of movement. There he is. So just go quietly and slowly. So that's a adult male plains wanderer. So you can see with him, he's pretty much a fawn coloured bird all round. Bit of scalloping on his wings, and then the yellow legs and that bill are unlike anything else.
How do the male and female find each other?
So the female does most of the calling. She's got quite a loud, solid call. She uses both to mark her territory, but also to attract the males.
Plural, yes, you heard that right. Males is what the female plains wanderer is seeking.
The female is the one that holds the territory. She'll have around 12 hectares of grassland that she'll call home, and she'll share that with a number of males. So it could be 2 or 3 or more males. With the first male, she might mate, lay the eggs, and then he'll take over the incubation role. She might assist to a small amount, but as soon as the eggs are hatched, she leaves and leaves the male to look after all of the young until they're independent.
By day, it becomes clear why it's so hard to spot the plains wanderer. It's very fussy when it comes to habitat, which has earned it the name of the Goldilocks bird. The grasslands can't be too dense or too sparse if it's going to hang around and cohabitate. Conditions have to be just right.
The scientific name of the plains wanderer is Pedionomus torquatus, and it's in the evolutionary line of things, it's one of the most distinct species that we have in the world, let alone just Australia. So the Goldilocks term has been penned for the bird because of the habits that it has. So it just doesn't occupy any grassland out in these areas. It has really specific parts of the structure that it likes. So it has to be 50% or around 50% bare ground, 40% grass, and the rest is made up typically of litter. They really like that key sweet spot, hence the Goldilocks term, for it to sit in that area.
Yeah, you got to be careful on that bend on the Willow Road. There's always cattle in there.
Achieving that delicate balance for the bird is where landholders' grazing management comes in. Farmers are working with the New South Wales Biodiversity Conservation Trust, also known as BCT, to manage their paddocks to encourage the endangered bird to survive and thrive on their properties.
7 farming families in the Western Riverina have set aside more than 15,000 hectares of their land to help protect the habitat of the plains wanderer.
And that's just the landholders working with the BCT. There are other conservation groups also working with farmers to bring the plains wanderer back from the brink of extinction. Reece McCulloch and his family are helping to manage the bird's habitat.
Yeah, so a classic would be something like this here.
Yep.
Which is where, they could make a nest in there. So you've got that nice, big, tall tussock that gives them a bit of protection, a bit of shelter.
Yep.
On McCulloch's place, there's probably a couple of 100 hectares of habitat that's suitable for the bird. And, over a period of time, there could be up to 20 pairs or so here.
To ensure farmers are managing their paddocks just right for the Goldilocks bird, landholders have committed to conservation agreements of at least 15 years with the BCT. It also benefits their grazing management.
The 40 to 60% of the ground cover is perfect because it allows the plant to replenish after we graze it down to 40%. And then when it gets to 60, obviously you stop that plant from reaching an oxidising phase, which then is wasted for us. So, yeah, if the Plains Wanderer enjoys that, then so do we.
The paddock where the Plains Wanderers were spotted at night on the McCulloch's property is one of those being managed for the bird.
We've given that probably about 120 days rest from sheep. It did have cattle in it, which was a very light amount of cattle. And they predominantly were eating down a long way away from the Plains Wanderer primary habitat. So, yeah, we've got a mission to fence that area off.
Following a tender process, the Biodiversity Conservation Trust provides funding to farmers up to $40 a hectare to maintain that perfect ground cover for the Plains Wanderers' habitat.
The financial part of the Plains Wanderer program has been perfect for us because we've actually installed drought lots or containment pens, which we can now give the country more rest and manage our stock better.
Fencing is a huge undertaking for the McCullochs, as the average size of their paddocks was more than 1,500 hectares. Reducing their paddock size is one of the main ways they are managing their ground cover for the benefit of their commercial grazing operation and the Plains Wanderer.
This program has increased our profit just by managing our pastures. We did manage before, but the Plains Wanderer habitat has made it more of a conscious effort to manage the pastures more critically, which we see our sheep have a constant condition score. They're producing probably another 250 to 300 grams of wool per head. Just by having feed in front of them and having it in that perfect phase of high production feeds.
So how's it been going, Tom? It's been 6 months since I was out here.
Yeah, good. I think we're looking after the paddocks and we're looking forward to out here. We've got a fencing program to put in.
Yeah.
We're getting that underway.
Tom Hook and his family run 15,000 breeding ewes on their large-scale merino operation near Wanganella in the Riverina. On the day we visit, they've just started shearing their flock of 30,000 sheep and lambs.
Naturally, we want to be part of something that helps an endangered animal, but also they really put it to us about how we can tie it in with the things we already want to do. We want to be able to manage our landscape, to have a healthy landscape, to run a good business, and we just thought it really tied into what our core principles are anyway, so it was an easy decision.
As part of their agreement, noxious weed control is a priority. So far, they have removed more than 4,000 boxthorn shrubs.
So it's all about promoting biodiversity and improved grazing management practices, which, as I said, it's already what we want to do. It's the best thing for our business. A lot of it comes into cutting paddocks up. We've developed a containment area, so whatever we can do to maintain ground cover and manage our animals better across the landscape.
The Hooks have divided 2,000 hectare paddocks into 800 hectares and are working towards improving their grazing management. Tom also recognises the Goldilocks bird needs things just right to prosper.
For the bird, there absolutely is a sweet spot. We don't want 100% ground cover. We don't want, too little. So there is a sweet spot. If we get to a point where the ground cover's too thick, we'll actively graze that to manage it, to keep that in that perfect habitat for the bird.
Cassie Douglas is part of the Biodiversity Conservation Trust team that determines the suitability of the land and the conservation work landholders can do while running their farm business.
Part of that negotiation project between the BCT and landholders, we talk about whether or not we need to do paddock subdivisions, so some fencing, or whether we need to upgrade fencing to maintain stock proofness so that stock can't get into paddocks when they're not supposed to be in there. They might be doing box thorn or Bathurst burr control. Part of landscape fox baiting programs, that's a condition of these agreements that they participate in landscape scale baiting because it's so important for the species to thrive. And also maybe some rabbit control and those sorts of activities as part of their agreement.
The Hook family have a 20-year agreement to help ensure the future of the critically endangered plains wanderer, while still producing high-quality merino wool.
Everyone's well aware that we're custodians of big tracts of land and often multi-generational land, and so I think it just goes hand in hand. There's kind of just an unspoken obligation to do what you can in these kind of spaces.